All right. So we are off.
Oh, what's up, Ramon?
What's going on? So for anyone watching this, my name is Ramon. This is my channel, Kanai Adjusting. What who we have here? This is my boy.
What's
Uh,
up?
we we met each other for the first time, kind of by accident, right?
For sure.
Last year, but we knew each other for about 4 or 5 years before that
Yeah.
through a mutual friend of ours, and then we end up staying together at an Airbnb. And when I tell you, this is one of the best adjusters out there.
Oh
I know
no, don't start doing
you're gonna
that.
be all modest. Don't do that. Don't do it. Just take the compliment, brother.
I mean, look, I appreciate it. I suppose I'm not
Yeah,
one
but
for accolades, man. It's just I take everything I do serious, and that's where we at. So,
all right. Tell us a little bit about you, Jordan, insurance adjuster extraordinaire. So, what were you doing before you came into the insurance industry?
man, I was doing commercial and residential maintenance. We did like pressure washing, window cleaning, things of that nature. And used to do some repelling off of high rises. So that was.
High rises, how high?
You said how high?
Yeah,
I mean, tallest building I ever, worked on, rappelled on was 55 stories. So, like,
55 stories.
yeah.
So
hmm
you have no fear of heights.
I mean, I wouldn't say all that. I think that the driving factor of, making money and supporting myself was really what kept me into it. Plus, it was family. I won't, everybody's scared of heights to a certain degree. I think it's just the fear of falling and not the heights per se. Trusting your equipment like every other job that requires safety equipment.
Man, I knew this guy who he had a fear of heights, and this was during my first deployments,
Mm.
and we went on a roof, 1 story, and got stuck. It was a 1 story
For real?
gable roof. Yes,
Oh,
it
no.
was, and he was calling people to help him get down. It's like this first roof he's ever been on.
Oh,
And then
man.
the homeowner came out and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I can't get down." He's like, "Get off my roof, man!
That's,
You're gonna
that's,
get your ass, you're gonna get your ass
hey,
up."
man,
He
there's no
goes,
better motivation than somebody yelling at you, I guess.
"So how did you find the insurance industry? How did you find adjusting?"
Um, it kind of came to me, to be honest with you. So, like I said, I was doing my own thing, and I ended up going to a wedding and running into an old friend, and he happened to be adjusting, and we were kind of in the middle of storm season. I think he was in this guy's wedding, so he was on the road currently, but came back for the wedding. And we just
Hmm.
got to talking about it, man, and he just kind of sparked my interest in it. I don't know about anybody who's going to watch this in the future, but I'm just, I don't know. So they call me your favorite hustler's favorite hustler, man. Like, I'm highly motivated by, money and supporting my family, not from a greedy standpoint, but, just know what I'm worth and that's what I'm going for. So, I ran into him and he just kind of sparked my interest at it. When he came back from his assignment, we talked a little more about it and I just decided to go for it.
Did
And
he have to? Did he have to show you proof, like
um,
this is how much I made, or because
I mean,
I know
no,
he threw out some dollar signs and say you can make this much.
yeah, all right. So to be fully transparent, we did talk numbers and money, and
Hmm.
from when he started to where he was at, the earning potential that he had, the earning he had made, should I say, it was enough to motivate me. We
Hmm.
had a good enough relationship to where, I knew he wasn't capping about it, so
Hmm.
we went for it.
All
But
right.
let me touch on that one time too, man. Kind of unfortunate situation. So it got me in the industry, got me. This is before we were doing what is that? Oh, where you go to do your certifications. I can't even think of the name of it, but whatever the case may be, this is when we were doing it in person in a classroom type situation.
Okay,
So
is it Pearson View?
no, it wasn't Pearson View. Damn. If we weren't talking about it, I would know it, but I can't think about what the
That's how
name
it
of it
goes.
is. It's where you go to get your certification and you go through your prep course for it. But so at any rate, I went through all of that, went through the class, got my license, everything like that. And he was supposed to kind of be my way in because I'm not sure if you were planning on talking about it later, but one of the toughest things about this industry is finding somebody who's going to gamble on you to go out there and do what is an incredibly complex job. And it takes a while. So, and needless to say, he was my way in. And about 3 weeks after I got my license, he died. I'm not necessarily going to get into any of that. Obviously, it has nothing to do with this, but he died. So, I kind of had to start over in terms of finding my lane in this industry. So, after that moment, this is in 2018. So, between 2018 and 2020, I was like everybody else that starts at this, don't know where to go, fill out a million applications for them to tell you that you don't have experience. So I didn't get my break until early 2020, but I got my break in 2020 and here we are.
You had your license for 2 years before you got deployed?
Yeah, I mean, 2 years based on the year, but in terms of months and everything, it's probably 2.5 years.
Okay.
And this is, like I said, I'm a proactive person. So it was me calling people frequently, saying I was available, and even trying to take staff roles. But, I just I didn't have a give.
So how did you get your first break? Was it during hurricane season? How was it?
No, it was during hail season. And I don't
Okay.
mean to have a story for every question or nothing
Now
like
go
that.
ahead
But,
and share your
everything
story.
is interesting
That's
in
what you're
life.
here for, boss.
So it turns out, this is around the time that I was having my third kid. So I was working selling cars, hated it, but you got to do it. So I had my third kid doing that, and this is right around COVID. So my son was born right before we really got into that COVID era in 2020. So come May, I was still doing that, and I got my first break, but I broke my phone, man, like a typical rookie mistake. I break my phone, struggle like hell to get a new phone, whatever the case may be. So I get it. The day I get my new phone, they call about a job, missed the call back, nobody answered. So I was just because I was in the pits about that. They left a message pretty much offering me an assignment and I missed it. So in my mind, it's like you missed your moment. Been waiting for years for this, but you dropped the ball. But that next day when I went to that car dealership, man, about 9:00 in the morning, they called me and it was over with.
Oh, they called you?
They called me back, man. They called me back. It was the next day. So I had a day worth of reflecting about, how to be an adult enough to keep my phone with me. So took that assignment out, and I think it was in Texas, working huge hail, biggest hail I've ever worked to this day, like 4.5 inch or something like that. But went out there, did the best that I could, man. But it probably, looking back on it, didn't go great. But
how long were you out there for?
I was only out there for like a month, and it wasn't because I did get released, but it wasn't because of performance or anything. It was just kind of, we worked all the claims in that area, and they were only keeping those that could really do cleanup type stuff. So
yeah, and they were hitting the high numbers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my numbers were probably trash back then, man.
So what was it like? It was a field assignment, right?
Yeah, it was a field assignment.
So what was it like? You got the text, right?
Yep.
And now you have a certain amount of days that you have to get there.
Yeah.
To actually get in there. So kind of tell us, like, what is the pressure and I need to get here and get all this logistical stuff done within 3 days. Like, and how did you how did you quit the job? Did you just walk in and be like, like, what
Oh
is
no,
this?
so the job thing, I want to get straight to that part first. The job thing was hella easy, man, to be real with you, because it's just like, obviously, most adults know about selling cars, and it's a commission based thing, so you can make some money, but most of the time you're just hitting dead ends. You're trying to oversell somebody on something that they clearly want, but they look at you like a crook. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it was easy. They got the call, closed my computer, told my manager what time it was, and I moved around. In terms of like the short turnaround times on being on site versus getting the call for the assignment,
Mm-hmm.
um, it might have been a little easier transition for me because rewind back just a little bit, before I was selling cars out of necessity because it was during a slow time for residential work where I live. Um, I did some traveling for work, so it wasn't like those who are coming from being home every day and have never traveled to going like full throttle with that. So, I know stuff to bring and how to make it as cheap as you can comfortably live, depending on how you live. Some people like to spend more on a hotel and less on food. I like to
Mm-hmm.
spend less on a hotel and more on food. So that part of
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't bad, but it is a quick turnaround. So if you get a phone call in the middle of the day, don't matter what you're doing, what you got going on, you typically got to be on site within like 48 hours. So if the place that you're going is 12 hours away, then you're leaving the next day.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, for me on my first assignment, we were so high on the anticipation of it, like it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really like a problem for me to be like, I got the call today, I got to leave tomorrow so I can make it to where I'm going. So,
Mm-hmm.
just left my job, went and got all my stuff, and hit the road the next day, and that was that. But it's tough
Man,
too. Go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's tough too because as a new person, you don't know what to expect. As a
Mm-hmm.
seasoned adjuster now, I can kind of pick up on clues on things. And one thing nobody's really going to tell you is that when you take these assignments, it's always a gamble. So if you're working a job and you're able to feed your family with that job, if you have an option to take PTO or leave or sick day, that's what you should do, because
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about my experience since 2020, but roll back a little bit to 2019 when it was Hurricane Dorian. That's what it was. So I got a call for Hurricane Dorian in 2019. Unfortunately, where they wanted us to meet pre-COVID was like in Alabama at a State Farm facility in Birmingham,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yep.
Birmingham for me is only like 2.5 hours away. And, I have a friend that lives out there. So I was able to get free accommodations for at least the first couple of days. But that ended up being a bust. So I was out there for like 4 or 5 days
Mm-hmm.
while we were, because they call you in that situation, they called me like a couple days before the storm hit. And that was supposed to be like the storm of the century. Dorian comes in and just goes straight north, bro. It didn't hit nothing. So I was there for like 4 or 5 days, paid for accommodations, paid for food, paid to get there. And then pretty much it just didn't, no work came out of it because it didn't hit anything. So not really. So, that was just 4 or 5 days into my assignment. They called me on the phone, like, look, we didn't get the claim volume that we thought. So there is no assignment. So for those people out here that hear this and you have a job, but try to take one of those like PTO type situations, because you quit your job and then that goes bust and now you're back to square one. So that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tough part of these calls.
Major risk.
Yeah.
My first call, like I got my license and I got a text for to go do desk work for auto.
Yeah.
And I got that like 3 weeks after. But during that time, I was already on. After I got my license, I was already on these rosters, and I was getting texts before I even passed the got my license. Right, I was already getting texts. So finally, that text came. had to go to Texas. I worked that job for about a year, and I made like 127.
Nice.
They released me for some nonsense, a technical issue, because at that time the work was real slow.
Yeah.
Then I left the country. I came back, and then my manager, they were hiring more people. My manager recommended me to come back, and he was blowing my phone up. And so I got back in. So this is based on I'm bringing this up based on what you said
Yeah.
with the take that risk. You get the call.
Yeah.
My first big deployment in the field, they were trying to send me to Washington by California. It was
Washington
like
State.
Washington State.
Yeah. For anybody who
50
doesn't know
out,
this, me and Ramon live in the same state, and it's about
Georgia.
as far away from Washington State as you can get, for
Yeah,
sure.
50 hours. And then I was
50
like,
hours? No.
yeah, and I had no experience with this company.
Hmm.
None. And you work this company, you know how hard it is and how detailed they want everything. And
Okay.
I
I know what
never
you're talking about then.
yeah. So and it was supposed to be a daily assignment, and I called my manager after I accepted it because they called me at 7 p.m. that night, like on a
Yeah.
Tuesday. Let's say Tuesday. I called my manager and I told him that my mom is sick and I take her to the hospital. I can't come to work tomorrow because they didn't send me the confirmation. And I had
Yeah.
to pack up my truck and hop in, and I started driving. And I drove 5 hours, and I was in Tennessee. And this was now it's like 12 p.m. and I have 3 days to get there. So I have to do 12 hours every day
Yeah.
and get a hotel room at night. And right,
Yeah.
get to Tennessee, the lady calls me. We need you to stand down. We're no longer deploying for this position.
Yeah.
Got to turn right back. And it's the good based on what you said, right? Make sure you have a plan because it's a big risk. So
Right.
because he thought I was just doing a sick day because taking care of my mom. The next day I just hopped on the computer like nothing happened and continued
Yeah.
working.
Hey man, look, sometimes you got to do that. If you can't put all your eggs in one basket, especially in this. If you don't know, once you get some stripes under your belt, real big thing in this is relationship building. So, obviously some of these firms still call and they send text and you respond to it like standard protocol, but a lot of the work that I get now is like people call me, not companies.
Mhm.
Like people will call me like, look, we need people out here and I want you to be part of my team. So, those are the ones that you're like, all right, cool. We locked in no matter what happens. Like they're gonna find something for you to do. So
So
but getting started is hard, man. It's hard.
yeah, it's very, very hard. And then you build those relationships, but you build those relationships based on your performance.
Yeah,
So you have to
performance is
be
everything. Yeah,
pushing
cool
out
people
all
get
kinds of knowledge.
drowned out here in this
Yeah.
industry.
And then on top of that, not only performance, you gotta be like no escalations,
Yeah.
right? You gotta make that the manager's job super easy,
Yeah.
right? So kind of touch on that, like how do you handle your claims so the manager is not getting overwhelmed and you're not getting calls from agents and saying that you're messing up? Like, what do you do there?
So the thing that's the best about this industry, to be honest with you, is it's facts based. And maybe it's the guy in me, maybe it's just me as an individual, but facts are facts. So it's like if you can give them the facts, you take good pictures, you make their job easy, then I mean that's really where the workflow comes from. I mean, it's either damage or it's not damage. Period. If it can be consistent with the data loss, then you add it. If it's inconsistent with the data loss, then you don't add it. But I mean, once again, like I just take this serious. Like I'm not here just because I heard I can make a bunch of money and just by showing up. So, I'm not big on wasting time. So it's like, if you pay me to do this, then this is what I'm doing. I'm going to give you everything you want. You learn day one. This is why you get low payment, state, one of the carriers calls them authorities and one of the, some other carriers have a little less stringent on what you can pay somebody up front. But I mean, most management, when you're new to the company, even if you've been doing this 10 years and you go to a different company, they're going to want to see what you're capable of doing. You learn that day one. Send your management something. If they like it and they don't have no feedback, do it that way every single time. If they give you feedback, make the changes that they want, then do it that way every single
Mhm,
time. That's how you keep
mhm,
your management happy. Once you know
mhm,
what they expect from you, then that's the way you give it to them.
mhm. And it's a super counterintuitive industry, right? Because you your whole thing is to not talk to your manager in this
Yeah,
company.
yeah, for sure.
Like if your manager doesn't even know, barely knows that you exist, and they don't call you at all, they're calling you to just see if that you're still breathing and whatnot. That's you're doing a great job. If
This
they're
is
calling
true.
you every, if you're calling you two
I
three times a day,
apologize. Give me 1 second, man. I can't
yeah,
lie. I
yeah,
was natural light and it's starting to fade. So give
okay,
me.
all right.
That might help a little better. I'm still dark, but hey, look, you know, life ain't perfect.
It's all good. So, what has been like some of the challenging challenges for you in this industry?
I think for me, I'm pretty outspoken and I have no problem with voicing my opinion. But truth be told, some of these, the biggest challenge for me, I think, is knowing that you're making the right call. Because even though the rule of thumb is damage and no damage is no damage, sometimes there's no gray area for it. But sometimes you're like, damn, does that make sense that on this date, based on all the evidence that you collect, could that be the case? Am I making the right call for these people? Because the direction from every carrier, every firm I've ever worked for was find coverage for the insured so you can help them through their claim. And sometimes when you go on these claims, it's like, man, I don't know. You might not know what you're even looking at, not in the sense of like, just it's like, and could this be or could this not be associated with the type of storm or the data loss that I'm looking at? Sometimes that line is kind of blurred. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge for me, at least initially. Now the biggest challenge is sometimes the personality types. That we're adjusters and you do this independently, but you're constantly working with somebody. You're working with different homeowners from different places, different contractors every day, and
Mhm,
sometimes that makes it challenging within itself. All the different personality types that you have to work with, which is the nature of the job, but a challenge nonetheless.
mhm. You ever had any tough roofers or public adjusters that you had to deal with?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So a few of the states that I worked in, which are frequently visited states for me, are full of public adjusters. And public adjusters and independent adjusters have the same goal. You're trying to find as much coverage as you can to provide to the homeowner. But we have people to answer to, and some things don't make sense.
Mhm.
And public adjusters think that everything makes sense. Contractors feel like everything makes sense. So sometimes those disagreements can lead to tension. And
Mhm,
I don't blame them, to be honest with you, because look, if I was a roofer, I would be in the business of saying everything that I found, every anomaly on the roof was hell, and maybe
mhm,
that's just, maybe it's not, but you're in the business of making money to feed your family by replacing roofs. So in my
yeah,
mind, there's no such thing as a good shaped roof.
mhm,
But sometimes when you look at that unrealistically, then that can
mhm,
create issues. Or when you're trying to sell a roof so bad that, a disagreement could mean you might not get money this week. It's tough for them.
or this
So of
month,
course, there's tension. They don't get
or
paid
this month.
until the roof gets approved. So
Yeah, and so
there might be
some
their
of them
third or fourth time out to that same house without a check. So you know,
yeah,
it is
and
what it
some
is.
of them don't have no base. It's just all
Yeah,
commission.
it's true. Straight commission. Yeah.
And so you door knock for 2-3 hours on a Saturday in the sun, just for this
Yeah.
guy to show up and say, "Nah, ain't nothing here."
Hey, look,
Yeah.
man, and they always think that it's hardball, man. This this podcast that we're doing and this industry that we both are a part of, we're
Mhm.
independent, man. I'm here to advocate at the end of the day for Jordan Mayfield.
Mhm.
They pay me for my opinion, and I'm fair. I'm I don't do a lot of BSing. I'm not gonna tell somebody something's not damaged if it is, or tell somebody something's damaged if it's not. But at the end of the day, I represent myself, and how I present myself is how I present myself, and I just want to help. So they look at it sideways sometimes, but if it don't make sense, it don't make sense. It's hard to
Yeah,
say that there's wind damage on four sides of a roof if the
of
wind
course.
came from the west, but that's what they'll point out, and they'd be mad if you don't agree with it. But things
Mhm.
have to make sense. It's facts based.
Yeah, and they don't. A lot of times they don't understand how much resources we have,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
we could see the roof is not damaged 2 months ago, and the
Yeah,
date of loss was 3 months ago,
yeah.
and now we get to the site, and now the roof is all torn up on all four sides. Now, yeah,
This is
now,
this is part of it. But
yeah.
then, on the other side of that too, the roof could have been damaged for 3 years,
Hmm.
and you say that it happened 2 or 3 months ago, and it's just like
Hmm.
you use some of those resources and you determine this has been there for years, or this has been there for a
Hmm.
year, or whatever the case may be, you know. So, but you do all that due diligence to try to help these people, to try to find a reason for that to not be the case.
Hmm. So
So
how do you go about turning down or letting down the homeowner, right? Because let's say the roofer comes in, they set these unrealistic expectations. They take photos. They're like, look, there's hail hits on the vents. There's all look at this little circle on the roof. It's this is obviously hail, all that kind of stuff. Now there's an expectation because she thinks like he knows everything. But as a IA independent, we have to get more information than what's on the roof, right? We have to look for
yeah.
collateral, we have to look for splatter, we have to look for a lot more stuff than just what's on the roof. So she has this expectation, and you have to give her bad news. So how do you give her bad news?
So this, like a lot of other things, is requires you to read people. They call it reading the room, obviously, but you know the kind of people that you're dealing with sometimes that are going to be upset no matter what. Some people who are going to be upset unless they get exactly what they want, and some people who understand. But to be honest with you, I do two things. The first, I tell them the truth. I tell them exactly what I find, whether you agree with it or not. You know, at the end of the day, I've looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of people's roofs. I know
Thousand.
what damage looks like. I
Mhm.
know I can look at something and tell you if it occurred a month ago or a year ago. You know what I mean? So there's telltale signs. So I tell
Mhm.
them the truth. But beyond that, you have to know who you're dealing with, and it's just like if you go on a roof and it's not damaged, in hindsight, as a homeowner, this should be good news for you. Some people, it's good news. Some
Yeah.
people, it's the worst thing they've ever heard, but it's
Yeah.
because either they don't understand what you mean, or
Mhm.
somebody told them that we were going to pay for it and it was damaged, and they just disagree with that. But at the end of the day, it's just like, as a homeowner, you don't want damage to your roof. You don't want to pay your deductible. You don't want to have an additional claim. You don't, these are things, unless it makes sense. But if it makes
Mhm.
sense, we're going to address it. So I just tell people the truth. And then I just tell them, um, more so than, look, we're just not going to cover this, or there's no damage up there. I'm going to tell people why. Because I've found that in doing this and other things, people are most upset about bad news or things that they disagree with because they don't understand. So
Mhm.
if even this even goes for contractors. If I'm on a roof, I'm not just going to look up there and be like, "Look, there's no hail. I'll holler at you later." Like, if I disagree with the fact that what you're showing me isn't hail, I'm going to tell you why. Same thing with the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the fact that we're not going to pay for your roof. It might be the fact that you've got hail on one slope, but not on the other three. And, sometimes sloping a roof is what makes more sense than replacing a roof. At the end of the day, we're there to set you back to pre-loss condition. And pre-loss condition doesn't always mean full replacement of something. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just the facts of any industry. But it's just like, once you explain to them how you feel and why you feel that way, a lot of people understand. It kind of softens that bad news blow, and then some
Mm-hmm.
people you tell, look, I didn't find any damage on your roof or to your siding or whatever the case may be, and they're ecstatic. They're like, great, like I didn't think there was, but somebody said there
Mm-hmm.
was, so I just wanted peace of mind with it. So
Yeah, and it's always like it's always kind of surprising because you don't know who is gonna react to what. Because
yeah,
you might think that this person is gonna lose their mind, and they're like, "All right, cool, thanks for
yeah,
coming out."
yeah, man.
And
It's
then
always
and
the
then the
ones that
person,
imagine.
yeah, and then the ones that you think like, "All right, we're cool, man. We've been talking." Yeah, they're the one that's gonna do this. So call the agent,
Yeah,
call the agent, and
yeah.
give them a heads up. And the when you have good management, um, they usually have your back too.
This is
Now,
true. And
what?
I mean, the good thing about it too is you're documenting everything. So it's just
Mhm,
like at the end of the day, the facts are the facts. If I show you a picture and there's no damage in it, there's no, it's not like we're maliciously covering up damage, which is how some people approach it. It's just like, they don't trust the insurance company. So they assume that you're lying. But,
mhm.
pictures and numbers and things of that nature just don't lie. Like a picture don't lie.
Yep. You are the reason why I'm in this industry.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh
So
man,
you
why's
you
that?
you met the guy. I should have. We're just circling back, but you met the guy that got you in the industry, right? And
Yeah,
then you met my Gary on.
yeah.
We're gonna get Gary on. Gary on's with Seek now on this.
Gee, where you at, man? Where they at? Yeah,
And
man.
then
Me and Gary
Gary,
are lifelong friends. We've been friends since we
yes,
were kids.
and I was dating Gary on's sister.
Yes, in law.
They Gary on's wife, sisters,
Yes, sister-in-law.
in-law.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm going into this industry, and we could make this kind of money, blah 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 blah. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that." And it's always since the day that I've got Gary on told me about this. It's always my boy Jordan, my boy Jordan, my boy Jordan. My boy Jordan made this much money. My boy Jordan made this much money. My boy Jordan's in Chicago. My boy Jordan. So
yeah,
whenever, so I was like, all right. So I'm like, all right, I'll get the license, and we hopped in it, and I swear it changed everything in my life,
yeah, bro. Mine
my
too, man.
whole life.
Mine
Yeah,
too.
with the kind of money that we're able to make in this industry
Yeah.
has
So a
been
lot of
really good.
people wouldn't consider this a hustle. This is a hustle, man. This is a hustle, and not a hustle in the
Hmm.
sense that you're getting over on people or there's nothing to sell. I mean, other than yourself and the point that you're trying to make based on your pictures, but it's a hustle in the sense of the more work that you're able to get done efficiently, the more money you're gonna
Hmm.
make. And
Hmm.
this is probably my second favorite thing about this whole industry is that I won't say that it's uncapped because you're only one person, but it's just like in a lot of industries, you can go and bust your ass and you make the same check. In this,
Hmm.
you go and you do what you're supposed to do and you see your earnings increase.
Hmm.
So it's a beautiful part about it
So,
in my opinion.
so how do you deal with the stress of the industry? Because there's a lot of demands. You're getting a lot of people calling you.
Yeah.
You're moving fast. You're working 7 days a week,
Yeah.
and sometimes, and then you're a family man. You're married, got kids, and
Yeah.
they're far. So
Yeah.
how you manage all that?
So that is a tough part of this, but the good thing about this industry is I mean, you can literally do what you want. You're running a business for yourself at the end of the day. When you get these calls, they're not like you have to be here at this time. It's, are you available to go? If you're available, then you go. If you're not available, you got some personal stuff going on, you just don't take it. Granted, you ain't gonna make no money, but you do have the choice. But for
Mhm.
me, the way I like to do my thing, once I started to build relationships, and I know that as long as something has happened, that I'll have an opportunity to work. Um, but you can do it how you want in the sense of like I do like 3 month things, right? So if I take an assignment, I'll stay out there for 90 days. 90 days, and then I have to take a little bit of a break because I got to be with my family, and occasionally they'll come and see me. And you might have a weekend, you can go home, whatever the case may be. It's kind of frowned upon, but once you know how to manage your workload, you can kind of have some flexibility in how you do it.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that's
So just a little clarity on that for just so people understand what he's saying. If you once you don't you set your own schedule, and once you are making your numbers and the management forgets about you because everything is just you're hitting your targets, you're outperforming a whole bunch of people, you can stack up a bunch of inspections in 2 3 days, 4 days, and then go home, fly back home, and do all your paperwork, and then come back in and do your inspection, and
this
no
is
one would know.
this is not an amateur level move, but because the thing about it is these they just add up. This is like the
Mhm,
song that never ends. If
mhm,
you're dedicated to doing it, like claims never stop. And
right.
if you take any kind of break or leave for whatever reason, just know that that work is also not going to stop.
Mhm,
So if you don't have the ability to come back and catch up, that's where your assignment went south.
mhm,
I've seen people do it before, not even leave, or and I don't just I'm not condoning that, because if you commit to doing something, you should totally do it. But
mhm,
as a family person, I got 3 kids. I'm not gonna just be gone for 90 days. I'm not in the military and I'm not in jail, so there's no reason
mhm.
for me to completely, you know, remain remote. But yeah, but you would have to be able to catch up in order to do
Yeah.
in order to do that. But that's just my method. I like to work
Mhm,
3 months, take a little bit of time off, and then based on connections that you develop, the good thing about it is on an assignment, people come and go frequently. Somebody might be burnt out and have to go home. They need somebody to replace them. This is when your connections come into play, where, if they know that you're ready to get back to work and somebody's leaving, they'll call you and be like, look, take over for what's his name, and then you go and do your thing. But
mhm.
everybody don't have those opportunities, especially when you're new at doing this. You don't know nobody like that.
So when your assignment ends and the downtime is coming in, is it like release, like a I could breathe now, or
Yeah,
how do
man.
you?
The first time you don't have to get on a Teams meeting, or your cell phone doesn't ring, 15 times a day. It's a beautiful situation for me, at least. That I think that first day that you don't have to log into whatever platform you use, whether that be Exactament or, I'm not gonna get into specifics because I
Yeah.
don't let my
Yep.
promo people up, but
Yep. Yep.
the
Yep.
first day you don't have to log into your computer and work a claim is like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it for somebody else, but I typically go home and sleep a
Sleep in. Yeah.
pretty good night's sleep that first day or two, and then I do other things back home, so
Hmm.
I don't sit around. But you can if you want. It depends on how you live your life. You know,
Yeah. I mean, if you made $100,000 in 3 months, you could sit around a little bit.
You can chill for a little bit for sure,
Yeah. Yeah. If
or a
you
lot of it.
a
Depends on
lot
how
of
you.
it, I know a lot of people will get that money and they're gone out of the country.
Yeah, man, more
Yep.
power to them. More power to
so,
them.
what do you do during your downtime? Like between that month, are you hustling? You just chilling with the family? Because And then also, what I also want to touch on is kind of like as well, not just how you handle your downtime, but you make all this money,
Okay.
now you have this big cushion,
Okay.
and especially in the going into the winter time,
Yeah.
there's no deployments until February, March,
Yeah.
and that bank account is going like here.
Yeah.
Like how you manage that? So
Okay.
those two
So
things.
that is a couple questions. So I'll
Hmm.
do the downtime first. So my
Hmm.
downtime, obviously, at least the first week, 2 weeks, like I just chill. You know what I mean? You get after working 7 days a week for months at a time, you need a release. And I got 3 kids, so we do all kinds of stuff. So that's their time. And then after that, I also do some carpentry and some other things. So, I'm a busybody person. I can't just sit around very long. It just if I had billions of dollars in the bank, I wouldn't just be sitting around just chilling. I'm too
Hmm.
busy for that. So,
Hmm.
uh, I focus at that point on things that I actually enjoy. Like
Hmm.
woodworking to me is like you know my spirit animal or something. Like it's just what gives
You
me
got
peace.
you got an example of that?
An example?
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything around you real quick, or you don't have any?
Yeah, I just finished this here. Uh, my lighting kind of sucks, so I don't know if you can see it, but buddy of mine's
The
getting
Georgia?
married, so made him a
Okay.
Georgia cutting board out of black walnut.
Okay.
Sorry, this is also like my art studio, but yeah, that. And then the second part of your question, about the funds and how that goes.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it works for some people, it doesn't work for some people. It's hard. I don't care how much money you make or what you do. Once that stops, it gets real. If you got
Hmm.
100 grand in the bank the first time you don't get a check and you got to pay a mortgage or rent and all your bills, you're gonna feel it no matter what. But
Hmm.
this is just the type of industry that you have to be smart with your money. And if I could give any advice to anybody, it would be pay for everything in cash. Don't finance anything. Because I mean, it could be the winter, it could be half the year. If nothing happens, there's no work, there's no work. So it's
Hmm.
just like you never know until storms happen again. So be
Hmm.
smart with your money.
Hmm.
That's pretty much it.
All right. And
Go ahead.
so, the storm season about to start.
Yeah.
So hopefully this month,
Woo, woo,
or
rooting for it.
are you wanted to start this month, or are you trying to start it? You hoping to start this next month?
I mean, I'm open to either. It doesn't matter, but I will say I've been off since December, so yeah, I'm ready to get back to some money for sure.
Ready before that bank account to look right again?
Yeah, yeah, bro, for sure. And I think that I kind of got off topic. I don't know if anybody who sees this, I got ADD really bad. It's hard for me to stay focused. But um, you were asking about how I deal with the stress with this too. So in
Ye-
this
Yes.
is
Hmm.
incredibly stressful. Everybody
Hmm.
does it different. Some people like to work out. Some people like to get massages. Whatever the case may be, I skate. You know what I mean? So anytime that a day is tough or whatever, and I can catch a break, I go and skate. That's my release for my stress when I'm on the road. So you just got to find what works for you. Whole lot of people, in today's world, work out.
Hmm.
Getting on and off of roofs. Decent amount of us are pretty fit, so a lot of people spend gym time. I just don't, ain't really my thing. So, but
Yeah.
whatever it is, you got to find something that you enjoy doing that you can do while you're on the road so you get a break from this for sure.
Yeah. Because not only will you be on the road, they will have you in Timbuktu, some small town in the middle of nowhere, with one Applebee's and a Walmart, and the Walmart is the highlight of the whole town. And
This is facts.
you need to figure out how you're gonna kind of cope with all that kind of stuff too. So it's a managing stress is something that you really have to learn to do in this industry. Like for me, I try to go to the gym, but it's hard to get to the gym when you have so much work to do. That's like, have you noticed how many fat adjusters they were? Like the old school adjusters, they're like the old school adjusters,
You're right.
the old school adjusters, the back in the day adjusters, boy, those are some big adjusters, boy. And
Yeah,
so there wasn't as many Planet Fitness back then. And
no.
so that's what I get. And then you're gonna be living off fast food the whole time.
Yes. So
A lot of fast food.
that's another thing to consider too, is having a plan on how you're going to feed yourself. Like you mentioned, which is a good point. You're not always in, we'll just use Atlanta for reference. You might not be in Atlanta where you got hundreds of options for everything that you would want to do. You might be in, who knows, but there might, like you said, be a Walmart, if that. You might get a Dollar General about everywhere, but there might not be anything. So you got to consider how you typically eat. Me personally, I don't eat a lot of fast food. I'll cook if I need to. I'll cook sometimes just because I enjoy it. But, food is like my guilty splurge when I'm on the road. Like I said earlier, I'll stay cheap and eat good before I eat cheap and stay good. That's just my personal preference on it. But.
Yeah. But let me say this too. The best appointments that you're gonna have with your friends.
Yeah, for sure.
I was staying with it was me, him, and two other boys. We got Ramon. I did the podcast with him, and then we got Mr. Crazy Boy.
Hey, look, everybody you can't stay with. I'll just say that.
Yeah. But the cool thing is, like, that was a highly entertaining time when we were together. There was no real drama, and Jordan can cook a fire steak.
I can cook a steak for sure. But that was kind of new for me too, because if it hadn't have been for the fact that we actually met in person on a humbug, shit, bro, I just would have spent months not speaking to anybody. Because the thing about this too is, you work a bunch, so you don't really have a whole lot of time to just be frivolously doing things. And if you do, you're definitely doing it wrong. If you got time to be out at the bar every night, or you're just doing something wrong, that's an extra claim you could have worked, but whatever the case may be. But most of the time you are by yourself, and that's hard to do for months at a time. Not see anybody, not talk to nobody, but it doesn't bother me. But that definitely makes a difference when you can meet other adjusters. Y'all at least be able to talk. If you can stay together or whatever the case may be, you might not know them, but everybody's there for the same goal. So it's like, it makes it a little less stressful to stay with somebody that you don't know. You're just busting down the cost stuff. So.
Then y'all can split the Airbnb fees.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can save some money, a couple $1,000 here and there. All right. So as we wrap up, right, what are your goals for 2026? Like, how do you envision this year going for yourself?
I want to work something fun and unique. And I watched your podcast last week, and I heard you talk about wanting to stay out of Florida. Man, I had the best experience ever in Florida.
Well, no, you can't. You know exactly what company we don't want to work with.
I mean, I get it, and I get that part of it. But Florida, with all the litigation, I did hundreds of claims there. I haven't seen any of them come back. That's not to say that they won't, but I give my best in it, and I did my best on every single claim. So it's just like, I hope none of them go to litigation. But
there's a company that I worked with in Florida. They remote claims in Florida. I'll go back to Florida any day just to work with that company. Right. Hey, look, but there was one particular insurance firm.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to go to Florida with them.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It wouldn't necessarily be my thing either, but that's not for me.
Any financial goals? Any benchmarks you're trying to hit?
I mean, hey, I do, but I think that this isn't the best platform for me to talk about my financial goals.
All right.
I just want to work the majority of the year. The
Hmm.
money comes with it. I just want to make sound investments and do things with my money. That's my goal every year. I just want to increase the amount that I'm able to invest and, take better care of my family this year. One
Yep.
thing that we didn't really talk about, and I feel like you might have asked in the beginning, but that initial call to get into where you got to be, a couple things to keep in mind with that. I know but A, you're going to a place that has a lot of damage typically. So you're talking about a place that people might or might not have power. They might or might not be displaced from their home. There's a lot of other people going there to work and do various things, contractors, power companies, other adjusters. So if I could give anybody any advice, it would be when you get that call, book something somewhere to stay for at least a day or two. There's a good chance that where you go initially is not where you're working. So don't book a long-term place on your way to an assignment. Fortunately for me, I'm married. My wife is awesome. So I just let her know where I need to be so that way I can do my initial meetings and orientations that every assignment's going to come with. Stay there for 2 days. And then as soon as you get claims and you know where you're going to be, you got to book somewhere immediately. But that little
Hmm.
gap is when you know, if you're broke when you go on assignment, you better try to find somebody as quick as you can that can split the cost with you. If not, it gets tough because price gouging is a real thing in a damage area where there's limited availability. People gonna charge. So,
Hmm.
it's not a stretch to think that you might spend a couple days in your car or something, or showering at the gym. That's a reality. Slept in my car a few times. Not even out of not having money, you might go somewhere and have $1 million in your pocket, but there ain't nowhere to stay. There's no hotels, no rooms, no Airbnbs. That's just part of it. So you just got to stay further out, which,
The hurricane season, in particular.
hurricane season is that time where that's a
It's that.
huge possibility.
Hmm. You might have to drive an hour, 2 hours into the damage zone.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up on that. Unless you have any final thoughts, anything that you want to say.
No, I don't, man. I appreciate you having me, though.
No
I'm
problem.
getting
It's
over being
all good.
sick, so I apologize if I sound a little stuffy on here, man. But
No,
it
you
is what
sound
it is.
good, bro. It's all right, man. But I do appreciate you coming on and
Yeah, no
spend
doubt,
some
man.
time with
It
me.
was fun.
And cool. And so we're gonna wrap it up. I hope you guys have a good one. This is Kanaya Justin, and peace.
Peace.